Hello, cherished viewers. Welcome to today's show, Antarctica, a bell ringer of climate change. Today, we introduce to you Dr. Chia-Fu Chiao, a climate change expert who has conducted long-term research on how veganism can effectively curb climate change. He is also a professor and research fellow specializing in molecular and cellular biophysics at the prestigious Academia Sinica in Taiwan, also known as Formosa.
Hello, wise viewers. I'm Dr. Chia-Fu Chiao, and the kind Formosan people send out their love and joy to all global citizens for a thriving and healthy planet. Today, we will travel to the mysterious and fascinating continent of Antarctica to learn about how climate change is transforming the face of this frozen land. Antarctica, the southernmost continent on our planet, is the coldest, driest, and windiest place on Earth. It lies almost entirely south of the Antarctic Circle, is surrounded by the Southern Ocean, and contains the South Pole. At 14 million square kilometers, or 5.4 million square miles, Antarctica is the world's fifth largest continent, being nearly twice the size of Australia. But the most remarkable feature of Antarctica is that almost 98% of the continent is covered by a massive ice sheet, which averages 1.9 kilometers or 1.2 miles in thickness. The relatively small areas of exposed land in the northernmost reaches of Antarctic Peninsula are home to several species of penguins and seals. In the past, Antarctica was one of the coldest places on Earth, with temperatures normally ranging between -10 and -60 degrees Celsius. However, in recent years, the effects of climate change have reached even this remote continent. Currently, Antarctica is one of the fastest warming areas in the world. The rate of temperature change there is 3 times faster than anywhere else on the planet. As a result of climate change, Antarctica is starting to melt. A new scientific report published in Nature revealed that in 2017, Antarctica experienced the warmest temperatures, lowest snow cover, and lowest autumn sea ice cover on record. Antarctica is divided into 2 major regions. West Antarctica is covered by the West Antarctica ice sheet, which is up to 4 kilometers or 2.5 miles thick, and about twice the size of Texas, USA. Some of the sheet is spread over a series of islands, but most of it rests on an underwater basin about 1,500 meters deep The surface temperatures in West Antarctica, particularly on the Antarctica Peninsula, are rising more quickly than in the rest of the continent. On March 24, 2015, an almost unbelievably high temperature of 17.5 degrees Celsius was recorded on the Antarctic Peninsula, and temperatures at Palmer Station on the peninsula have risen by an alarming 5 degrees Celsius, 2015 figures, on average. The 2015 record was broken on March 1, 2017, when a temperature of almost 20 degrees Celsius was recorded by the World Meteorological Organization. What's of even greater concern to scientists is that global ocean temperatures are also rising, according to research reported in the January 2017 issue of Science. The Earth's seas are now warmer than they have been in 100,000 years. Because most of the West Antarctic ice sheet is exposed to water, these increases have made the sheet highly vulnerable and unstable. Over the last 2 decades, large chunks of its glaciers have broken off and disappeared. The larger part of Antarctica is East Antarctica, which lies on the Indian Ocean side. East Antarctica is essentially covered by East Antarctica ice sheets. In the past, scientists believed that this sheet was stable and not readily affected by climate change because it rested entirely on bedrock, much of which was as much as 4,000 meters above sea level. However, researchers recently made an alarming discovery. After probing below the ice, using radar as well as gravitational and magnetic sensors, they discovered that the massive sheet is not resting on a high plateau. In fact, a large portion of East Antarctica actually lies below sea level. This means that much of the East Antarctica ice sheet is in contact with water and is therefore vulnerable to rising ocean temperatures. Most surprises came when researchers looked more closely at the total ice shelf of East Antarctica, a vast floating ice ledge that buttresses the largest glacier on this part of the continent. Satellite imagery between 1996 and 2013 showed that the surface of the Chiltern Glacier is melting. Its height has dropped by 12 meters, and the ice shelf has retreated inland by as much as 3 kilometers. Scientists are alarmed by these discoveries because the East Antarctic ice sheet is 10 times larger than the West Antarctic ice sheet, and the impact of its collapse would be much more disastrous. Researchers are now gathering as much information as possible about East Antarctica, concerned that the ice sheets might reach a tipping point. The consequences of warmer temperatures and subsequently melting ice in Antarctica would be catastrophic. The continent contains 90% of the world's ice. Rapid melting of this ice and collapse of its ice sheets would have a profound effect around the world. And a study published in Nature in 2017 reported that the ice sheets in Antarctica could melt much sooner than previously thought. This is not in the future. This is widespread now and has been for decades, says study author Jonathan Kinslake of Columbia University, who studies glaciers.
I think most polar scientists have considered water moving across the surface of Antarctica to be extremely rare, but we found a lot of it over very large areas.
When we return, we will discuss more about ice loss in Antarctica here on Supreme Master Television. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm Professor Jiafu Zhou, and we will continue learning about climate change's devastating effects on Antarctica. Satellite images of the continent show that the sea ice cover in Antarctica had fallen to its lowest levels on record since satellite imaging began in 1979. The lowest recorded minimum sea ice cover in Antarctica was reached on March 1, 2017 at 2.075 million square kilometers, and the lowest maximum on September 12, 2017 at 18.013 million square kilometers. Scientists are becoming concerned about the rate of ice loss in Antarctica and have been particularly monitoring the Antarctic Peninsula on the northernmost part of the continent, where the effects of climate change are increasingly evident. They report that since 1945, 87% of the glaciers in this area have retreated. A real bell ringer of the impact of climate change on Antarctica came on July 12, 2017. On that day, a colossal iceberg, 6,000 square kilometers in size, as large as the state of Delaware, USA, broke away from Larsen Sea, the largest remaining ice shelf of the Antarctica Peninsula. It was one of the largest iceberg carvings ever recorded. Scientists are now concerned that after shedding more than 12% of its area in this single event, the entire Larsen Sea ice shelf is in danger. Two other ice shelves in the areas, Larsens A and B, have both entirely collapsed, one in 1995 and the other in 2002. These floating sheets play an important role in keeping glaciers intact, acting as buttresses that hold back the enormous glaciers on the nearby land. When the ice sheets collapse, the barrier is gone, and the glaciers on land can slide much more easily and quickly into the ocean. Eric Ricknott, a glaciologist at the University of California, Irvine, states as climate warming advances farther south, it will affect larger and larger ice shelves that currently hold back bigger and bigger glaciers, so their collapse will contribute more to sea level rise. And this danger is looming much more quickly than most people think. Recent research suggests that at the current rate, the melting ice from Antarctica could cause a 1.07 meter or 3.5 foot rise in sea level across the Earth by 2100. Such a rise would be catastrophic, altering coastlines in much of the world and affecting many major cities. Looking at the USA, nearly the entire southeast coastline would be inundated, and large areas of Florida and Louisiana would be flooded. And if climate change is not stopped, the situation could become even more dangerous. Scientists have estimated that complete melting of the Antarctic ice sheet would raise global sea levels by more than 60 meters or 200 feet. The impact of such a rise would be catastrophic to our planet. A further concern about melting ice is that vast quantities of methane gas are believed to be trapped under the glaciers. Should ice sheets and glaciers collapse, this methane would be released, adding even more to the vicious cycle of climate change. In Antarctica itself, the primary victims of climate change are its innocent, helpless animals. For many years, penguins have been the veritable icons of Antarctica. However, due to climate change, the population of these birds have been decreasing at an alarming rate. The elderly penguins have been the most affected. Antarctica was once home to about 160,000 of these beautiful birds. But a recent study showed that the current population of elderly penguins is now only 10,000, a 94% reduction in their numbers. Antarctica's magnificent and famous emperor penguin population is also declining. Emperor penguins' lives depend on sea ice, on which they breathe, feed, and molt. The disappearing sea ice is putting them at risk of extinction. Climate change is also having a significant impact on Antarctica's seals, including the Weddell seal, the crab-eater seal, the leopard seal, the Ross seal, the southern elephant seal, and Antarctic fur seal. Warming ocean temperatures are reducing the amount of food available for these mammals. In a study of the Antarctic fur seals of South Georgia Island, published in Nature, researchers reported a 30% decline in the female population from 2003 to 2012. James Belloc is an American photographer who, for the past 8 years, have been studying and photographing glaciers in a project called the Extreme Ice Survey. Working with National Geographic, Mr. Belloc installed a series of several cameras in Antarctica, taking photographs of glaciers every hour. From these photos, he created remarkable time-lapse videos showing the retreat of the glaciers in real time. James says, "What I hope people will do when they see these pictures is to understand that climate change is real. And I want them to be animated by the idea that we can do something about it. So I want people to look at these pictures, to get motivated, be interested, understand that it's real and that it's a problem for right now, not just some faraway imaginary future, and deal with climate change in the here and now." William V. Sweet, a scientist with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, in the US, and a leader in research on coastal inundation, agrees, saying it's not 100 years off, it's happening now. Most scientists concur that climate change is man-made and is the result of a rise in the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The main ones being carbon dioxide, or CO2, methane, and nitrous oxide. These compounds are called greenhouse gases because they act like glass in a greenhouse, preventing the sun's heat from escaping from Earth back into space. While many believe that carbon dioxide is the main cause of climate change, in fact, methane and nitrous oxide are far more dangerous. Molecule for molecule, methane is 25 times as effective as carbon dioxide at trapping heat in our atmosphere. Nitrous oxide is even more dangerous, as each molecule of nitrous oxide can trap 300 times as much heat as a carbon dioxide molecule. And where does methane come from? According to U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, animal agriculture is the world's single largest source of methane emissions. And what is the source of nitrous oxide? According to the United Nations, the meat, egg, and dairy industries account for a remarkable 65% of nitrous oxide emissions worldwide. Research from around the globe suggests that shifting to a plant-based lifestyle contributes more to halting climate change than anything else we can do. Kind, concerned, and compassionate viewers, thank you for viewing today's program as we visited the ice-covered continent of Antarctica. Up next is Unconditional Love is the Best, Part 1 of 2, on Between Master and Disciples, here on Supreme Master Television. May we all protect this important land of ice by adopting the compassionate, loving vegan lifestyle.